thought it was going to be just like any other day of my life, but by the end of the day, to spring up would be one of the craziest railfan outings of my life. Welcome back to the Sunshine State Rails. As I mentioned, it's Monday, April 12th, just after 4 p.m., and we're driving northward on State Road 39, the Paul Buckman Highway, currently passing Plant City Siding, and in it there's a Kansas City Southern GEVO. What's that about? Well, that's just the beginning of tonight's shenanigans. Driving north about 4 more miles and we hit Knight's Siding, and there's some covered hoppers in the siding, as per usual, and an ethanol train on the main. Huh? Well, this whole scenario, along with what would come tonight, was only possible due to a major screw-up earlier this morning. Let's reiterate here a bit. A number of days beforehand, we railfans have been hearing about a K423 on the way south, with that Kansas City Southern GEVO leading a CSX GEVO, and a Faramex SD70 ACE as an N-train distributed power locomotive. All was going mostly well on its trip down, until it made it to here. Crossing over the border into the Sunshine State just after 3 o'clock that morning, everything was going pretty smoothly, making it to Baldwin and dropping off that trailing CSX engine. The trip continued fairly well, and if it continued at this rate, we wouldn't be seeing this right now. But obviously it did not continue that way. By the time they got to Wildwood, their Faramex N-train DPU completely crapped out, leaving the crew with only one engine to pull the train to Tampa with. But luck just wasn't on their side, because when they got to Zephyr Hills, their last engine ran out of fuel. And I'm not kidding when I say that. So now, you have a train with 2 broken down engines trapped on a main line. They were able to stick the train between the switches at Knight's Siding, leaving the S-line completely blocked, with empty phosphate hoppers in the siding and now an ethanol train broken down on the main line. Afterwards, they had 0709, the Plant City local, bring their locomotive up to Knight's on its own and move that lead KCS GEVO down to Plant City Siding, where somebody would come out and refuel it. And that's where, after a 10-minute wait and a drive back to that KCS engine, we end up here. This engine wasn't started up when we first came by. They just now got it back on power, with a new crew under the ID of 046012, who had come on the radio not long after we had got there. 0460 is a very unusual train identification, but in this area, it's commonly used as a rescue crew to go out and retrieve trains off of main lines and bring them into their final terminals, commonly needed when the road crew runs out of hours in their shift. But in this case, it was because their lead engine ran out of fuel. With the engine now refueled, the crew came on the radio with a request to head back up to Knight's Siding, retrieve the train, and bring it in.
046012, JF. Engine KCS 4699. Finally, we heard the engine trouble at first, couldn't get it started, but now we're ready to head north to Knight to get that train together if we can.
And so it was. The crew would run the KCS engine long hood forward all the way back up to Knight's, and we'd follow suit. A medium clear on the mast at North End Plant City would direct them out of the siding back onto the main line. past the switch at south end of Knights, he's now almost back on his train. But then I started hearing other things coming up from the south on my radio. What could that be? Calling signals throughout Plant City and Plant City siding. Then I looked just to the north, and the switch was now lined for the siding. What is going on here? Then I hear 0725 on the radio. Then it hit me. On top of what was happening now, Winston had sent a power set out of their yard to pick up the giant line of empty phosphate hoppers inside of Knight's siding and bring them back to Winston. That was insane to hear. This specific set of cars have been sitting in Knights for just over a month now, and you almost never see the jobs that come out here to bring these stored cars back to Winston whenever they finally decide to do so. Of course, today it could have been on account of this other mess happening out here, and there would be yet more mess to come. But within about 10 minutes, 0725 shows up from the south. 2 CSX engines coming up to Knights to hook onto the empty hoppers. With 725 now on the siding, the scene was set. 2 trains at Knights on both tracks waiting to go south. 0460 was supposed to go first, but it didn't happen that way.
Okay, so this is just about the dumbest thing I've seen on a railroad in quite some time. They finally got the KCS back up here. They brought 725's engines in to pick up those hoppers, and for the last almost 2 hours, they've been screwing around with the ethanol train, trying to isolate and reattach the Ferromex as a DPU on the bottom. They're not doing very well with that, and they're holding up Q442 down at Plant City, who barely has enough fuel to make it to Waycross. So they're a little pissed off, and finally 725, since he's ready to go, they're gonna pull him out first. So let's turn around and get him.
South end Night siding to the main. Full line, yeah, okay. South leg off the long lead and
So finally, they've made a fairly wise decision. They just ran 725 out, as you saw. He's going to Winston to finally drop off those phosphate empties that have been sitting here for, and 0460 still sitting here. So as you can see on the signal behind me, they've lined Q442 through the siding since the siding's finally clear. 423, or now 0460, still chilling here. So they're finally going to let 442 out of the siding at Plant City, and they're going to run him through Knight's siding to get around this 0460. This is insane, but here it is.
At 8 o'clock p.m., I never thought I'd say it, but 046012 is ready to take it south. The Ferromex on the bottom still had about 230 gallons in the fuel tank, so the crew had spent about 2 hours fiddling with it to see if they could get it up and running to push them into Tampa. But after multiple walking trips to the front and rear end, the decision was finally made to do absolutely nothing with it, leave it shut down, and use the one motor on power to pull the 98 car loaded train into Tampa. So they got to work this engine hard. We were able to wait for the entire train here because he wouldn't be going anywhere quick. Seeing the giant ethanol consist roll off of the south siding switch in the fading light really made me realize something. This train got here almost 12 hours ago, and they're finally on the move south with a new crew and a new set of fuel. They wouldn't be able to gain a whole lot of speed with this train. It took them a good 15 minutes to get from here to downtown Plant City, and by then the sunlight was pretty much gone. But we stuck it out anyway, and met up with my good railfan friend Christian to shoot the Fiasco one last time.
046012, KCS 4699, clear, Plant City interlocking, southbound out. KCS 4699, clear, market, southbound, nope.
And that would be all. On Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard at 8:25 p.m., this is where we'd end the evening and put a seal on all of the events which occurred today. When I woke up this morning and saw where that train was, there'd have been absolutely no way for me to have known that this is how I'd end the day. Huge thanks to Christian for help with the GoPro view on the platform, and for just being able to come out and catch this train. I knew it was very special for you, and it was good to finally meet up again. So, to seal off an absolutely extraordinary chain of events in Plant City, Florida, this is Kotabeaner, and I'll see you next time on the Sunshine State Rails.